Sean Ryan is the #1 podcast for guys like this. He's the guy whose podcast had Pete Hegseth on as well.
You little tater tot bitch. We are 2 minutes and 35 seconds into this video. I'm just gay as the rest of us, motherfucker.
Just the same, another sunny day in LA. Everything is fine, so they say. Wonder what the news is.
Or at least 10 of the victims. They range in age from 18 to 63 years old.
Denise said that the stepfather was Muslim and that's how the perp became Muslim in his youth. No, she said that he was raised Christian by her mother and was estranged from his father, who I believe was Muslim. She said that the family was predominantly Christian, but because of their names, they regularly were targeted as though they were Muslim. Stepfather was Muslim. That's the reason. Is there any understanding of the motive yet? Yeah, the person's father was Muslim. He was raised Catholic. Those options make no sense for a man in a corner. Those two things have zero connection for a man who thinks he has nothing left. One is a complete loss of anything he has left with his own hands. The other is randomly joining a Fed operation which only connects with the racist logic he's Muslim. I mean, it doesn't matter. At a certain point, everyone understands that he converted to Islam, okay? That part is correct. And not only that, but also he did become more and more insane. Like at a certain point, he lost his dang mind, okay? It's still interesting to track this journey and understand the point of radicalization and what took place, because part of the reason for why it's important to understand it is because there are people out there who are tying this back to like regular old Islamophobia, even though there is a surprisingly lower number of people doing that. I think most of the people that are doing that are pro-Israel people in general that have used this as an opportunity. Don't ever let a crisis go to waste, to basically reassert the position that like this guy is basically the same as all of the pro-Hamas Iranian-backed protest movements on college campuses and the like.
Tony DeCopel brings us the stories of some of their families.
Also, I have a question for you guys. This is the worst question to ask. I have isopropyl rubbing alcohol. I have merthiolate, which is benzalkonium chloride, 0.13%. And I have povidone iodine swab sticks. Now, why do I have all these? Because I want to clean the remainder of Kaya's scar. Not that she has any issues or anything like that, but I don't know what the best one is to use. Quit doing news slice of life stuff is like this is better. Bro has bomb making material at home. The iodine swab sticks is better. Soap and water? Wait, really? I'm a chemist. Benzalkonium will be the safest. Iodine will be the most effective. Usually has the least reactivity with skin and is commonly used in human surgery. I'm a doctor. I don't think there are there are no open wounds, but I just want to like fix. I just want to clean up, just make sure to clean up what is remaining of the area. So while this story continues, I'm going to do that in the background.
She was a wonderful girl. She was 27 years old. She smiled all the time. She liked to help other people.
Martha Patricia Perez's daughter, Nicole Perez, managed Kimmy's Deli just outside New Orleans and was a loving mother to her 4-year-old son.
She had a lot of dreams. She had a lot of dreams. She can't do it now. She's gone. Because the terrorists killed my daughter.
Reggie Hunter from Baton Rouge was 37, a warehouse manager and father of 2. His youngest, still just a toddler. And his cousin, Sherelle Robinson Jackson, says he was someone who liked to laugh.
Made everybody laugh at the family. A great dad.
Nikira Cheyenne Dido had recently graduated high school in Mississippi. Just 18 years old, she had dreams of becoming a nurse. And another 18-year-old, Kareem Badawi, a freshman engineering student at the University of Alabama, after high school not all that far away from Bourbon Street in Baton Rouge. Martin Besh, meanwhile, known by his nickname Tiger, played wide receiver on the Princeton University football team. A ferocious competitor, his head coach said, with endless energy.
His laugh was contagious.
Zach Colgan remembers his cousin Matthew Tenedorio as a goofball who at 25 simply wanted to make people laugh.
This shouldn't be happening to our nation.
14 different people drawn together by, of all things, celebration. Now 14 different families united in grief. For CBS Mornings, I'm Tony DeCopel in New Orleans.
Earlier today, I spoke with Dr. Jeffrey Elder at the University Medical Center here in New Orleans. It's a Trauma 1 hospital very close to here. He specializes in emergency medicine. He had been on work all day long, went back home, was then called back in after the attack.
Were most of the injuries from the vehicle itself, or were there gunshots as well?
Yeah, so it was interesting because when you talk about injuries, you think of a blunt mechanism like a car crash, or penetrating trauma like a knife wound or a gunshot wound, and really here we had both. Most of our patients were unfortunately suffering blunt trauma, so they'd been hit by the vehicle and had injuries to the abdomen, the chest, the head, and a lot of broken bones. We had a few patients, really the minority, that had gunshot wounds that were here.
This hospital is about 10 years old. It's really beautiful. Dr. Elder was also saying that this was the largest number of sick critical trauma patients that they've ever seen in such a short period of time. I met earlier today at that hospital with Pittsburgh area native Jeremy Sensky. Jeremy uses a specialized wheelchair. He was in New Orleans on vacation. He uses the wheelchair because he was in a car accident in 1999. He's paralyzed. I spoke to him. He was on Bourbon Street. He was struck directly by the truck in his legs in the wheelchair. He survived miraculously. I spoke to him earlier.
I think I got hit and my body was just thrown onto the ground, and I just, for like a second, I don't remember that moment, but as soon as I hit the ground, I think I came right back awake. The first thing I remember when I hit the ground were the gunshots, and as soon as I heard the gunshots, I was thinking in my head that I would hope I was clear from the gunshots, and I thought that's kind of why I was on the ground. In my head, I thought, well, maybe I'm on the ground because of the people shooting, and I was on the ground to get away from it.
So you heard shots? Did you see anything around you?
No, I didn't see anything. While I was hearing the shots, I was still like disoriented, and the whole time I was like pretty messed up. I really didn't know what was going on, and I was just glad that I didn't get shot. Like, I'm thinking the gunshots, I'm laying on the ground, I should be safe, and then my leg was messed up. I kept messing with my leg. I'm like trying to figure out what's wrong with my leg, and I saw this stuff around me, which was parts of my wheelchair. So I started scraping it, trying to find my phone. I really couldn't tell what was what, so I tried to get my phone. I wanted to use the phone. I was going to call my wife and tell her I was alive.
Your leg, you were you were bleeding.
I think that I was bleeding, but it was my leg was just broke, like in a bunch of different pieces.
There's a photograph taken from overhead
where the truck is, and you're on the ground.
Yeah. And the truck was to my right.
So did you heard shots? Did you see anything around you?
No, I didn't see anything. Like, and I was screaming, help, 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 help. And finally a guy came over and said, listen, you're lucky to be alive. He said, many people aren't as lucky as you.
I heard that somebody put a mark on your forehead indicating you were alive.
Somebody came over and they put the number, a yellow X. And I asked, what does that mean? And they didn't tell me. But later on I found what it meant, because whenever they care, what they did is, after a while, I'm not sure how long it was, the time was like forever. I mean, I felt like I was there forever. I was laying on my back, and there was a guy named Patrick. He was one of the cops that was dressed up in like the army fatigue color. And eventually he just stayed with me. After I told me I couldn't walk and I was paralyzed, he stayed with me. And I asked him what had happened. He said, we don't know, we're still trying to figure it out. And I said, was it just a drunk driver or something? Did someone blow up something? Because I didn't know. I still hadn't put two and two together that the truck had done anything really. And even though I had seen the truck, I never even thought that that's what had happened, because I was so out of it.
When did you learn that it was this person in a terror attack?
Today. They were talking about it, something about someone shooting a cop or something, or someone got shot by a cop, but no one called it a terror attack. And I kept asking people, like the nurses and doctors that were with me that night, and no one said it was a terror attack. And today I found out that it was a terror attack.
Does it make you angry?
Me personally, I'm going to have a hard time probably coming back to Bourbon Street for a while. But I mean, I might. But I'm not. My whole thing was, you should feel safe there. And hopefully, there was definitely things that were wrong. They didn't put up the stupid thing at the end of the road that I had to drive over my wheelchair that's supposed to stop the cars. Wasn't up. So that was definitely a problem. Like, that thing that was supposed to be up was down. I drove over it. I did get pushed over it, but it was only this tall, like 5 inches tall. Something like
Yeah, they said it needed to be repaired or something.
Yeah, well, they should have repaired it before New Year's Eve.
Is there anything else you want people to know? I don't want to take up too much of your time.
I'm just happy to be alive, man. I don't want people to be afraid to go out and do things. I really don't. I mean, this could happen anytime, anywhere, but what are you going to do? Stop living your life?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kevin McMahill. I'm the sheriff for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Over the last couple of days, since the bombing and death of the individual inside of the Tesla at Trump Towers, had a number of priorities that we've been trying to accomplish over those days. The first one of those priorities was to confirm that there's no further threat. I think we've completed that. The second was to positively identify the suspect. We've also done that today. I can confirm that that is Matthew Livelsberger. We also wanted to confirm that there were no other actors involved in this incident. I believe we've done that, and you'll hear much more about that as we move forward today. We've also today, I'm going to be able to share with you some of what we believe to be his plans and motives as to why he conducted this attack. Now, before we go on, I want to just address a couple of things before we get too far along here. I want you to know that we're very well aware of a podcast that is going around today and the contents of the letter in that podcast. And I just want you to understand that since we've been conducting these press conferences, I have only given you information that we have verified and deemed to be factually accurate. We've been aware of that document for a while now, and we still have not completely gone all the way through that and verified that entirely. We are in one of the two telephones and one laptop, so one telephone and one laptop that we still have not been able to get into. There is one cell phone.
What is this? Johnny Midwest checked the logs. I'm a ER nurse in Oakland. Soap and water is all you need. If you really want to go overboard, use iodine, but beware it stains the skin for a while. More extra credit, put a little bit of antibiotic ointment or Vaseline. I already did it. I did all of that. I did soap and water, and I did the rest of it. Damn, Kaya is so well trained. How long did that take? My king, please go wash your hands. Fine. I don't know what podcast they're talking about, but I suspect that that's where the manifesto conversation started, maybe. Wait, he was on Sean Ryan's pod? Wait, what? This guy was on Sean Ryan's? Breaking. Sean Ryan just dropped the emergency Matt Livelsberger episode, allegedly posting an email manifesto from the Green Beret behind the Tesla truck. In an email dated December 31st, this makes sense. Sean Ryan is like the... Sean Ryan is the #1 podcast for guys like this. He's the guy whose podcast had Pete Hegseth on as well. The real email manifesto sent. I urge everyone to dedicate at least 35 minutes to fully grasp the details that have unfolded over the past few days. This episode takes a deep dive into the manifesto, an email sent to Samosar by Matt Livelsberger himself. Within this chilling document, Livelsberger boldly declares, what I'm going to send you is going to change the course of humanity. Former Green Beret. Well, he wasn't a former Green Beret. I'm pretty sure he... Well, the manifesto is fake news. The source of it is a couple months old. Is at the center of the story just days before he drove a Tesla Cybertruck loaded with explosives to Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. The Cybertruck incident has raised serious questions about Livelsberger's motivations, his credibility, and the information he shared. In this episode, we unpack the manifesto's contents. That's twice now true crime terrorists and mill murderers to appear on Rogan and Sean Ryan. Yeah, we'll take a look at it. We'll take a look at the... This is the one they went over in the press conference. Fellow service members, veterans, and all Americans, time to wake up. We're being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves. We are the United States of America, the best country people ever to ever exist. But right now, we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? Why did I personally do it now? I need to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. What?
That we are getting into, and I can tell you
he
that
is a Trump supporter. He was a Trump supporter.
Scratching the surface, and almost hourly receiving additional information requiring substantial investigative effort.
I don't know if this is
of this joint investigation between ourselves, the FBI, and the ATF. And so, again, while I understand all of that is out there, I believe it is our responsibility to give you what we know to be a fact, and that is what I will continue to do as we move forward. A couple of questions came up in regards to the positive identification of the suspect in the vehicle. I want to give you a couple.
Yeah, he texted his ex. It's so wild that Connor O'Malley is genuinely Nostradamus. Las Vegas bomber reached out to his girlfriend ex-girlfriend a few days before the attack. I rented a Tesla Cybertruck. It's the shit. I feel like Batman or Halo. Oh, okay. It's been wild. So much learning and fun. I rented a Tesla Cybertruck. It's the shit. I'm building drones in my new position. You would love it. I feel like Batman or Halo. I don't know if this is cool or I should bully you about it. How fast is it? Ungodly. I feel like Batman or Halo is such a funny take. CNN has an email. Livelsberger said in an email the day before the explosion that he was armed and in possession of a massive VBIED and expressed conspiratorial concerns that government agencies were tracking him. A copy of the email viewed by CNN said, okay, I trust this. New details on the Cybertruck explosion. Master Sergeant Livelsberger was diagnosed with depression last year, but had not been assessed to be a risk of violence or suicide. Two U.S. officials familiar with his record tell me and Natasha Bertrand. This is from CNN. Law enforcement has received the message and examined where the email originated and believe it was written by Livelsberger, a law enforcement official familiar with the investigation told CNN. He tried to flex and she wanted to bully him. She caused it. Okay, yeah, it's a sarcasm. It's been posted on Reddit. Do claim the drones are Chinese craft based on alien technology. Okay, dude, I don't think. He also drove to the wrong Las Vegas at first. The guy who blew up his Cybertruck accidentally went to the wrong Las Vegas at first. Wait, what? I don't believe this. This account is a meme account. That account is a meme account. I don't think he went to Las Vegas, New Mexico on accident. It's most likely that there are charging stations on the path. Yeah. It is 100% reverse engineered alien tech. Aliens are not primitive enough to use propellers. It is not aliens. What? Yeah, I suspect that in the mountaintop, they don't have as many Tesla supercharger stations. So he was forced to drive around the mountains rather than over it, but I don't know. Anyway, we'll look at the I'll look at the email, but I'm not entirely certain as to the veracity of this email. I don't know if it's legit or not. Okay.
Couple of photographs as to what it was that we had some conversation around, because there's some tattoo comparisons that we needed to do. And in those tattoo comparisons, in this particular photograph, you can see a tiger tattoo, and there's a secondary tattoo on the stomach that the wife had told us about.
Jesus Christ.
You can see that some of it is burnt, some of it is not burnt, and while the body was still in the vehicle, we were unable to identify those specific tattoos until we were able to remove some of it. Secondarily to that, there's also a surveillance photograph that we obtained of our subject in Colorado wearing that very distinctive brown jacket. You'll see that a little bit later here in some of the photographs that one of the assistant sheriffs is going to talk to you about. There's also a lot of conversation that I hear out there about the fact that...
Is he okay? Yeah, no, he's dead. He's dead. He's super dead. He's charred. Burnt to a crisp for the most part. He not only seemingly shot himself in the head, but he also detonated a sequence of explosives inside of his Cybertruck outside of Trump Tower, which, you know, doubly killed him, I guess. But yeah.
The identifications, the credit cards, and the number of things that I provided to you previously did not show up as burnt in the explosion in the vehicle. And so I did think it was important for me to address a couple of those issues so you understand where we're at. That's a photo.
What am I even looking at here? Like, I don't even know what this is. It's just like bits of Livelsberger and a wallet. Is that what it is? Also, how good of a wallet is it that it just like protected the materials even after?
Photograph of the wallet. It's a leather wallet. Clearly, it's burnt up pretty well. However, that wallet was found in the back seat under some debris in the vehicle, and it contained, you'll see in this photograph, the credit cards, so a photograph, and a number of other pieces of identifying information.
I'm glad that they hid the credit card number, because you know someone could use them, and it would be really lame. Someone could use that and steal Matthew Livelsberger's money.
Military identification that I initially told you about was also located within inches of the wallet. And you'll see much of this stuff does have some burn damage on it. The passport that I described to all of you was found in the back, in the bed of the truck under debris as well, and you'll see a photograph of that in there. I also had mentioned to you that we were going to be doing dental records to identify the subject in the vehicle. The Department of Defense provided those dental records to us. We then forwarded them to the coroner, and the coroner also provided a positive identification for us. Finally, we had also requested DNA from the family, which was provided to us, and it matched to our suspect. We then, of course, had now confirmed fully his identity to you.
Johnny D. Fango, thank you for the 10 community gifted subs, allowing 10 people to no longer see the ad break at the top of the hour, which doesn't come anyway, but still, you can still subscribe yourself for free with a Twitch Prime if you would like to do so, or for $5 or $6. That's right. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
There has been, again, a tremendous amount of investigative effort that has been conducted now. And I'm going to introduce to you
Thank you for the 10
Assistant Sheriff Dory Corin to go over some of the extensive investigation that has occurred. Dory?
Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Sheriff Dory Corin. I oversee our Homeland Security and Investigative Services Group, which includes our counterterrorism unit that's been working around the clock on this investigation. I just want to briefly share a few updates on some key areas to include the operational activity that led up to this incident, a little bit of information on the post-blast investigation as we know it today, and then finally some of the information that we're discovering most recently about motives and plans to give you some insight on why this individual committed the act that he committed. To begin...
Yes, he was inside the car, and he allegedly shot himself, according to the investigators, before he blew up the car. Or like, they still don't know how he lit it up. Okay.
And just with the operational activity, the sheriff yesterday talked about the route that the suspect took to get to Las Vegas.
Weren't they calling him a terrorist? The answer is because he's a Trump-supporting white guy. And he also didn't kill a healthcare CEO. I hope that clears up the confusion. Why did he do it? We still don't fully understand what his motives were.
Vegas. We used a lot of this information to be able to track down video surveillance footage around different locations, as well as financial records, as well as call data records.
He also didn't, I think he intended to do a big bang and maybe even kill some people, but he didn't end up killing anybody else. Just himself.
As well as looking at the Tesla charging stations to be able to determine exactly which route the individual took, but more importantly, that it was the individual that we've identified as well as the only individual in the vehicle during the path that he took to Las Vegas. As you'll see here in this video here at one of the charging stations, there's just one example. You'll see our suspect here. He'll exit the vehicle. He'll walk around the vehicle at different times. At one point, you're going to see that he opens the door of the vehicle, he retrieves a coat, he puts that coat on, and you're going to see that at different parts to include the photo that the sheriff talked about just a few minutes ago.
Boggling to call this terrorism with no victim or no apparent motive is really interesting because how do you think so many terror attacks are thwarted by the FBI? Well, usually it's the FBI that's goading the person into doing the act of terror, but they stop terror suspects regularly. And then sometimes the ATF will go in to the home of a person for having an unlicensed weapon, and they find 150 pipe bombs. And then the judge will say, well, you have no priors and you're white, so it's fine. You're not a danger to yourself or others. And they just kind of they kind of let you stay at home. Like the guy in Virginia. That's a real thing that also happened in these past couple of days, where they went to the home of a dude. I believe it was in Virginia. I forget where it was, but they found 150 pipe bombs in his home, and then he was still. The judge said he wasn't a flight risk nor a risk to others, and said that he could be out on, not even on bail, but he was under home detention. Some of the pipe bombs that were built were preloaded into an apparent wearable vest. A lot of the pipe bombs were also completely unsecured, even though he lives with his wife and children. Prosecutor said Spafford also acknowledged keeping a jar in his freezer of HMTD, an explosive material that is so unstable it can be exploded merely as a result of friction of temperature changes. Investigators found the jar stored next to food items and labeled dangerous, do not touch. Seems like this guy had proper OPSEC. Even after losing his own fingers as a result of his homemade explosive materials, he made his apparent remarkable decision to keep an extraordinarily dangerous explosive material in the home's freezer next to food items that could be accessed by the entire family, prosecutor said, arguing the man poses an extreme danger to the community and should remain in custody. His lawyer said there's not a shred of evidence in the record that Mr. Spafford ever threatened anyone, and the contention that someone might be in danger because of their political views and comments is nonsensical. In fact, the evidence proved that Mr. Spafford is not a danger, but a hardworking family man with no criminal record. Except he was a danger to himself. He blew off 3 of his fingers on one hand. Anyway, yeah, he was a hard-working man, hard at work, making 150 pipe bombs. He is not in a detention facility right now, for the record. I'm pretty sure they released him and said, like, I think he's under house arrest currently. Your Honor, God forbid men have hobbies. Is this the nanny state akin to the Chinese Communist Party? Or are we a nation of freedom and democracy? He had a $25,000 bond, as in 1/4 of the bond that the Florida judge had seen as a reasonable bond for the Florida lady with like children, the 42-year-old Florida woman with children, for the crime of getting upset at a phone conversation, a claims denial phone conversation with her insurance company. That's amazing. Anyway.
We use this video information as well as what I said earlier about the financial records in terms of purchases being made with different credit cards, call data records, a video canvas at multiple locations, trying to use all of that to corroborate that the individual that we've identified is the same individual that drove that Tesla during that route that we've identified to Las Vegas. In addition to that, we also talked about the phones that were recovered. There were 2 phones that we recovered from the vehicle. Both phones were damaged.
New York Times just reported on the manifesto. Okay, if the New York Times reported on it, we'll move on the manifesto. So maybe more credible than previously thought. Yeah, we'll
We are still
cover
trying
the
to
manifesto
access
in a
the
second.
data in one of the phones, but we have been fortunate in our team, which is second to none, has done a really good job accessing the data in one of the phones that was recovered. You can see the phone here in the vehicle. It's very burnt from the outside. You can see another image here. But we're able to take this phone and be able to extract the data using a variety of different tools. And in that, we've identified a variety of information, but one thing in particular is there was an application in there that the suspect used to take notes. In that application, one of the notes is titled Surveillance Log by the Suspect. It appears to be more of a journal of activity. It dates for about 10 days leading up to the incident, from December 21st to December 31st of this past year. In that surveillance log, or as we would like to call it, a journal, because it's more of a diary of activity that he's conducting, we identify multiple locations that match what we have in the route. We identify activity that we've matched. So, for example, him purchasing firearms, him purchasing camping equipment or other types of equipment that were used in this incident, matched what our data showed in terms of the route and the video surveillance we were recovering along that route. Beyond the operational activity, I want to also get a little bit into the post-blast investigation. So make no mistake, this is a suicide vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, or short, it's a suicide VBID. We know also, as mentioned by the sheriff yesterday, there was a self-inflicted gunshot wound by the suspect. The coroner was very specific. In their examination, it was an intraorbital gunshot wound, which essentially means that the suspect put the firearm in his mouth and discharged the gun, and ultimately the round came out to the left side of his head. In addition to that, in terms of our assessment of the post-blast to confirm that he's the only individual involved and the only individual in the vehicle, we did a variety of video and photo comparisons to match the clothing. So if you look here, for example, this is a video in Las Vegas, and you're going to see in a moment here where he parks the Tesla truck. He comes out, and you're going to see some descriptive clothing that matches some of the other video that we've recovered along the route. Please keep in mind, this is a very extensive investigation, so there's a lot of content for us to review and examine. We're just showing examples and samples as we get them. There's more information as we go through it. But in this video, you can see even the distinctive jacket that he is wearing in that vehicle. The other thing that's important is the sheriff mentioned yesterday that Tesla sent to us engineers to come to Las Vegas to help us extract data from the vehicle.
It's so crazy that this dude was like, oh, I'm going to be a legend. I'm going to get America to wake up by blowing myself up. And all that remains is a vague manifesto as far as we've seen. And also a text message he sent to his ex-girlfriend that he feels like Batman or Halo. Like that's... I feel like Batman or Halo. The email about the drones is not the manifesto that was reported by the New York Times. What email about the drones? I'm not talking about the drones. To be clear, some people are saying that purposely exploding a truck in a public space isn't terrorism just because he's a white dude. That's wild. Yeah, imagine if he was Muslim and did that. Now, even if he didn't kill anyone, I assume that many people would be like, "Oh no, that's terrorism. It just failed. It just like didn't happen. Like it didn't succeed." The podcast manifesto talks about the drones. Oh, okay.
Thanks to their support, we were able to extract an SDMI chip from the Tesla vehicle. And Tesla was able to confirm to us using the data from the vehicle that the vehicle was not.
But it's not just that he's, a white guy, okay? Because as we know, you can be a white guy, but if you are successful and your victim is a high-profile CEO, for example, then that is definitely terrorism. We know that. We know that to be true as well.
Not in full self-driving mode at any time during this incident. Finally, the last category just to touch on is motive, which I know everyone is very eager to try to understand and be able to explain what happened. I'll reiterate what the sheriff said is we still have a large volume of data to go through and a lot of content to go through. As you know, with any one of our devices, there's thousands, if not millions, of videos and photos and documents and web history and all of those things that need to be analyzed. But with that, just as a preview for as we get information, we're trying to be as transparent as possible. There were a couple pieces of content we thought were important to share for now. One is in the note application, he seemed to have two letters. One letter in particular, as you can see here, this is an excerpt from that letter. He says, fellow service members, veterans, and all Americans, time to wake up. We are being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves. He goes on to explain a variety of other grievances and issues, some political, some personal, a variety of other things, which we will do our best to release very quickly here. But then there's a second letter where there's some more excerpts. This one seems to be dated after the fact.
Wait. Feckless leadership. No, he wrote it right. The cop read it wrong.
Here. But then there's a second letter where there's some more excerpts. This one seems to be dated after the fact in that notes application. And in there, you can read a couple of the excerpts. We are the United States of America, the best country, people to ever exist. But right now, we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get...
Oh, he said it's not a terrorist attack. Okay, never mind. Then that's fine. Guys, you don't understand. He said it's not a terrorist attack.
Get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives. Why did I personally do it now? I need to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. I'd like to just also expand on that and understand that these are just excerpts. In there, he does offer additional information that is varying on the spectrum in terms of political grievances, issues about the conflicts elsewhere, not here, domestic issues, societal issues, a variety of other things, including personal challenges as well. We are intending to release those initial letters so people can understand the best they can what the person's thought process was at one point in time. However, please understand there is still a lot more content to go through, and that may change. There may be a lot more information that we recover that explains either more or shows a change in mindset at different times. Before I turn it over to FBI Special Agent Spencer Evans, I just want to take a note and just mention what the sheriff said, which is our counterterrorism section and all of the people involved in this have been working around the clock, 24/7, tirelessly, truly through the night. They are second to none, and we really appreciate everything they're doing. With that, turn it over to the FBI.
Good afternoon. My name is Spencer Evans. I serve as the Special Agent in charge of the FBI's Las Vegas division. I'd like to express gratitude for everyone that's here today, and especially the partnerships that Sheriff Corrin just highlighted. It's been seamless collaboration between the FBI, ATF, Army, CID, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. You know, if you walked into one of the command posts and someone's not wearing a uniform, you wouldn't be able to tell who works for which agency, and it's been outstanding collaboration. We do have significant updates that we're sharing with you from an investigative standpoint, but just want to reiterate, as Sheriff Corrin mentioned, there is still a lot of ongoing investigation. We have terabytes of data that we have to analyze. We have outstanding search warrants and subpoenas, interviews that are being conducted around the globe as we try to paint a comprehensive picture of exactly what happened. That being said, we do feel confident that we have a much better sense of how we arrived at the events of the 1st of January and additional information that we can provide. So I'd like to first begin by addressing something that continues to be widely speculated, whether or not there was any connection between what happened in New Orleans on New Year's Day and then the incident here in Las Vegas just a few hours later. Just to be clear, there is no evidence that these two events are connected. The only things that we have connecting them are incidental, what we believe to be coincidental similarities, in that both vehicles were rented through the same service, that they were both subjects served in the military, that they both stayed at an Airbnb, things like that. We've identified no telephonic or email communication between the subjects, no information that suggests that they knew each other, that they ever served in the same unit, that they were ever assigned at the same place at the same time and had interaction, and no witness interviews have corroborated or provided any information that the two events are connected in any way. In similar fashion, we have not identified any connection between this subject and any other terrorist organization. During the FBI's international investigation to date, as I mentioned, we have interviewed family members, friends, the subject's associates, and military members that he's...
Both victims of family court, both spent time at Fort Bragg. But once again, that could be, that most likely is just independently radicalizing components.
He served with around the globe. Through these interviews, we've found that the subject held no animosity towards the president-elect. That's something that's also been reported. Investigative steps have discovered and...
None of that is connecting evidence? No, I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it's connecting evidence.
Information from the Army indicates that he likely suffered from PTSD, and we are also aware that there were potential other family issues or personal grievances in his own life that may have been contributing factors. Again, we're looking into all of that. It's evident that the subject considered, planned, and thoughtfully prepared for this act alone. That's what we believe, and we have no information to the contrary at this point. The FBI has been able to confirm some of this through the utilization of video footage in public areas as he traveled from Denver to Las Vegas. We have video footage that shows that he is alone outside.
Can we stop normalizing victims of family court? Both these dudes made it real clear why the courts didn't want them having custody and why their wives left them. I can't even joke about family court victims now. Like, what are we doing here? Like, excuse me, you are not allowed to make fun of divorced dads any longer. Because I misunderstand the joke that you're making, and then I feel as though you are saying, that, that there is a real thorough line here. Like, do you know, at this point, 50% of marriages end up with divorced dads. You don't see them, blowing themselves up, okay? It's a very commonplace thing. I'm making fun of a very common thing that happens in America that ends up making a lot of dads right wing.
Of the vehicle, and that corroborates again what Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department footage has also shown. The FBI, as the sheriff indicated, facilitated obtaining DNA from a family member that was able to be conclusively matched to confirm the subject's identity. As Sheriff Corrin mentioned, although this incident is more public and more sensational than usual, it ultimately appears to be a tragic case of suicide involving a heavily decorated combat veteran who is struggling with PTSD and other issues. Yesterday, I wanted to highlight...
Most divorced dads just end up doing the other thing. Instead of like blowing themselves up in this elaborate fashion, they just end up voting for Donald Trump and drinking away their troubles, constantly wondering why the rest of the family has isolated themselves from him, and thinking that it is the responsibility of everyone else around them and not themselves that such a thing has happened.
I mentioned a tip that was unverified that the FBI had received. Sheriff McMahill talked about this. It's now floating around there on podcasts. This is a tip that the FBI received after the bombing occurred that seemed to describe some of the personal grievances that the subject may have held. We still have not conclusively determined that that's from the subject, but feel confident based on evidence that we're uncovering on his devices that that was in fact from Leivelsberger. I want to reiterate that prior to this incident, the FBI did not have any information on this subject. He was not on our radar. He didn't have criminal history. There was nothing that we...
Damn, they hit the reverse. This subject was not on our radar. Our radar is now limited.
Would have been looking into him for up until this point. Last thing I just wanted to highlight briefly is it's not lost on us. We understand that there were victims. While the subject himself was the only person that was deceased, there were several folks that were injured, and obviously any sort of incident like this has a traumatic impact on the greater community and folks that are rightly so going to be scared and concerned, and some people that were inconvenienced and some that were taken to the hospital with injuries. We'd like to remind everyone that we're working with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department advocates, the Office of Emergency Services advocates, and the Southern Nevada Resiliency Justice Center to offer services to these victims. We recognize that there may be victims that are yet unidentified, so for those that might be suffering or otherwise impacted, we'd ask you to reach out to the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. And in similar fashion, as we reiterated yesterday, anyone who has tips related to the subject or this particular incident, please call us at 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip online at tips.fbi.gov. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Assistant Special Agent in Charge from the ATF, Kenny Cooper.
Will they tell us how he ignited it or what?
Not playing.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kenny Cooper. I'm an Assistant Special Agent with ATF San Francisco Field Division. I have some very quick resource updates. ATF has brought in some of our top experts from our National Response Team that will assist with the sifting through the debris of the Tesla. And that's an abundance of caution to make sure that we've got the initiation sequence identified as best we can from the evidence that survived the thermal event of this explosion, and to ensure that no other bad actors were involved in the initiation of that device. Also, my second...
Chatter be like, I already told you how he did it, and then you look at it and it's just this theory.
Update is to the firearms purchased by our subject on December 30th, 2024. Our ATF investigators were able to track down that lawful purchase at a gun store in Colorado. Our subject arrived in that gun store by himself on December 27th and initiated the ATF Form 4473 and actually paid for those two firearms that were recovered from the Tesla on the 27th and was a sole occupant of a vehicle arriving and departing that on that date.
Subject was the victim of a kinetic implosion resulting in a thermal event. After a thorough ocular pat down of the I love cop speak. It's so good.
And then on the 30th, we have video evidence of our subject entering that gun store as the sole occupant of the Tesla. He actually received and transferred those two firearms and took into his possession at that time and departed as the sole occupant in the Tesla. Those are the two updates that
He departed as the sole occupant inside of the Tesla Cybertruck in a tactical style implosive event.
Here to provide to you at this time. Thank you.
All right, with that,
oh my God, you're so loud.
we'll entertain a couple questions. If you could, please identify yourself. And,
Dude, cop speak is so funny. It's like, all right, on that note, we will tactically ascertain whether or not the investigative questions that you are allowing us to hear. Hands up. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. He's got a gun. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. I'm reverting back to tactical speak in this circumstance. I apologize. Identify yourself, sir. Why does he sound like he's going to arrest the reporters in the room?
We'll go from there, David.
David Charles, KLAS TV. Thanks for taking my question. Two quick questions. One, the video that you showed of him with the Tesla was able to extract that for you from the device.
That's such a funny way to operate. Like, I'm imagining sheriff's deputies at home being like, I've tactically ascertained that the salt contraption mechanism that you have in your hands must be dropped immediately. Please hand me your license, registration, and the salt receptacle. He's just so cop speak that he doesn't have a normal conversation with his wife. I'm tactically deploying words into a registered microphone. Drop the salt now. Drop the salt now.
From the car, the video you showed him walking around and at the charging stations.
Yeah, so let me just, the question was, can we, the video that we show, sorry, I was standing back there, so I wasn't sure which one you were looking at, but the question is, the video that we showed at the Tesla charging stations, who provided that to us? I'll let Dory answer that.
Without getting too far into the technicalities, there are various components in there that were retrieved. The SDMI card, it was not where the video was retrieved from. That was where we got the data to be able to determine that it was not in self-driving mode. However, Tesla did provide and helped our team be able to recover the thumb drive that records other types of data to include video by the Tesla.
In what state is this in? Do we know?
Kingman, Arizona.
Second question is about the detonation. There's a lot of questions. How was he able to die by suicide and set this off? Can you just in very basic terms explain how that could happen to kind of stop these conspiracies that he's not?
I've tactically ascertained the question that you have delivered to me, but you have improperly identified yourself. Now I will treat you as a hostile subject.
Yeah, so the second question is how are we able to explain the detonation versus the suicide? And we just believe it to be simultaneous at the time of the detonation. But again, that's why the ATF's bringing in the SABTs from outside to look at what that sequence was for the initiation of the explosion as well. And, you know, it's very difficult to see inside of those Teslas, even with the camera angles that we have. And so we still remain challenged on finding some of that exact timing on all of that. Go ahead.
Hi, Stephanie Price, Fox News.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi. We're seeing reports that he had another alias as Matt Berg and went on a TV show in 2013. Have you guys been able to confirm that?
So the question is if we knew of a alias of Matthew Berg and he had been previously on a television show.
Damn, Matthew Berg?
We've seen that reporting but have not verified that reporting. Behind you.
Yes, Kevin Nyes with NBC News. How would you describe his state of mind in these?
He shortened his name, or no, the alias. Instead of Life is Burger, he was like, nah, just call me Berg.
Final days, given everything that you read from his notes.
Was he Jewish? No, his name is Life is Burger. I feel like that's the most wasp. Oh, joke. That's the most wasp German last name you can have, like German American. Everyone with the last name I love Burger moved to America, okay?
And the manifesto that you see that you reference going around in the podcast, have you guys been able to rule out that it was not for him, or is it still up in the air that it could have been for him?
So the question is,
oh my God, what is happening with the audio levels, man? What is going on, dog? It's like, oh, they open up the microphone and boost the gain so they can hear the freaking reporters, and then it ends up tactically blowing up, tactically creating an auditory implosion event within the suspect's eardrums. We have accidentally utilized an LRAD, a long-range acoustic device. You sound like the audiophile chatters. I mean, that's crazy how loud that got.
How would I describe his state of mind in the manifesto that was described on the podcast? Have we been able to determine whether that was from him or not? And I'll answer the first part is I'm not comfortable giving you state of mind just yet. I certainly am leaning a particular way, but again, I'd like to be factual to you. I think when you read the documents that we're going to give you a link to at the end of this press conference, that you can go in and make some of your own assumptions about what that is. But I will tell you that part of my hesitation on that is I know that we have a lot more documents and number of things for us to uncover. And so I want to be able to provide to you only the factual information when I have it. And so I'm not going to opine on what I believe his state of mind was at that particular time. But certainly you can see some troubling aspects in his personal life as well. And I don't know if you want to address.
Yeah, this is tough. This is tough for a cop to opine on, okay? Because everything that he's talking about with respect to Matthew Livelsberger hits way too close to home, I suspect. Okay? You're basically asking a man to reveal his own personal journey in broad daylight in front of millions of Americans, all right? And you don't want that. It's hard. It's difficult to opine on such things.
That's the second part, Spencer.
Yeah, so in terms of the so-called manifesto that's circulating online, we have strong evidence to suggest that it was the subject that wrote it, but we haven't conclusively proven that yet. And that evidence relates to other evidence that we're finding that we're able to compare that lead us to believe it was in fact him who sent it.
Oh, dang. Well, we have tactically ascertained the veracity of the manifesto, which the suspect, the perpetrator of the thermal implosion event, kinetically put pen to paper. It seems as though there is veracity to the writing of said manifesto event. This is not the podcast email one. I'm not going to watch the entirety of Fortnite Friday chat. Calm down. I'm too busy tactically ascertaining what's going on with this improvised vehicle VBIED event.
J1.
Do you have an update?
Is it J1?
Yes, J1 from 13. Do you have an update on the conditions of the other people who were injured?
The question is, do I have any updates on the conditions of the people who were injured? And I'm told that they're all relatively minor injuries, and they've all been released from the hospital.
Kristen Drummond with News 3. As you were showing us these excerpts, can you say why definitively he chose the Trump International Hotel and why he decided to come here to Las Vegas?
Yeah, the question is, with the excerpts that...
Yes, that's right, chatter. I have tactically engaged in volume management to ensure that the auditory kinetic explosion event does not happen once again. I have now ceased. I have ceased the assault that has taken place in prior incidents.
That we showed, can we definitively identify why he chose the Trump Hotel Tower location as well as Las Vegas? And the answer is no. In fact, I think when you read through some of that, you might find that there were some other considerations as well for other locations. And we can't verify all of that at this point, and so that's why I haven't talked about that publicly.
Do you know what other locations he was considering, and were they here in Nevada?
There was one location in Grand Canyon that was specifically talked about there, but we haven't been able to verify anything as well. All the way in the back.
Berenice, estoy llegando with Univision Las Vegas. Thank you for taking my question. In regards to what happened in New Orleans, I know that you guys mentioned it's a coincidence, but what main evidence makes a difference to what occurred over there? That it's not being considered a terrorist attack here.
So the question is why don't we consider what happened in New Orleans and what happened in Las Vegas connected? And The simple answer to that is we don't find anything to actually point us in that direction. There are those coincidences that we have spoken very openly about, but we have not found throughout this entire investigation anything that ties the two attacks directly together. Go ahead in the back.
I had a question. Were you guys able to identify the type of explosives that were in the vehicle and where he would be able to find those?
So the question is, were we able to identify the types of explosives that were in the vehicle and where he was able to find those? There's a mortar-type fireworks in the back of the vehicle, some camping fuel, and we do know that it looks like from that document that we're going to provide to you that he may have stopped outside of a location in New Mexico and obtained those fireworks legally. But that is another aspect of the investigation that continues.
Hi, Noble Brigham with the Review.
Hi, Noble.
Thanks for taking my question. We've heard that the suspect wasn't opposed to President-elect Trump. Do we know anything about what his political views were?
The question is that we know that we've said that he was not opposed, the suspect was not opposed to President-elect Trump, and do we know what his political views are or were? There's a variety of different reporting out there, Noble, on what that is and some of the people around him and what their particular political views were. I think when you read some of these documents, you'll see that he actually calls it a stunt in one of these documents that we're going to release to you, that he was trying to get the attention of the American people because he was upset about a number of different things. But I'll let those writings speak for themselves. I'm not conclusively telling you anything about his political affiliations at this point, but I think that's more to come on that. Sir?
Anders Gutierrez with CBS News. Talk to us about you have an individual who is obviously struggling with mental health here, a member of the military service. There are others out there who may be struggling with this, a lot of mental health issues here. When they read these letters that you're about to release, how do you quell others who are struggling with the same from carrying out and seeing this as an inspiration? How do you quell the copycats out there?
Yeah, so the question is obviously, there's mental health involved in this, as we've already talked about, and how do we quell the others that are similarly situated to him out there in America? And you know, I think Spencer rightly talked about this for a moment. Is what you can tell by looking at this, that PTSD from a highly decorated United States currently serving military individual, from what I'm told, was 5 tours of combat. Obtained some of the highest awards you can get. It's not much different, quite frankly, than the reasoning why we started our wellness bureau here at Metro and taking care of the heart, mind, body, and soul of the people that are out there doing this work, because they're exposed to things, they see things, they hear things, they feel things, and they smell things that most normal people don't have to do. And the heroes that are serving in the military and on the front lines of America's policing are challenged that way. And so I think we need to really pay attention to those individuals.
This cop read the PhD dissertation of the olfactory cues in modern and contemporary prose. He read it. I'm inclined to believe that he read it. Olfactory ethics in modern and contemporary prose, dude. He read it. He knows. Talking about olfactory trauma.
Individuals, pay attention to what mental health in America looks like. And I think this is just one more incident that brings that to the forefront of where it is that we are in talking about these types of things. I'll take one more.
Rio AP, thanks for taking my question.
Sure.
Do you know why he chose a Cybertruck? Was he trying to send a message considering who the CEO is? And then just really quickly, could you confirm if the podcast you're talking about is the Sean Ryan podcast?
The Sean what?
Is it the Sean Ryan podcast?
Is that the name of it? Yeah. So can I tell you why he chose the Cybertruck is the first question. No, not really. I haven't been able to find anything definitive about it. Secondly, is it the Sean Ryan podcast? And yeah, that's the podcast that I'm referring to. And I'm sorry, there was one more hand over here that, go ahead.
Guy Tannenbaum, Channel 13 here in Las Vegas.
Hi.
Has there been any more speculation, more understanding on why he chose the route that he chose? Obviously, coming from Colorado, you can go through Utah. That's a more common way to hit the 15. Any more understanding when we're thinking about all the different potential sites that he could have chosen for this?
Why he chose the route that he chose. I don't think we can tell you we know why he chose it, but I can tell you that there's some writings in those documents that we're going to release to you that he mentioned going to the border as well as going to the Grand Canyon. And so we continue to look through all of the available evidence to help us answer that question better. And with that, I'd just like to, again, thank you all for the great work you're doing in helping us get this story out. And obviously, as we get additional information, we'll push it out to you. Thank you very much.
Okay. On that note, New York Times wrote an article on at least one of the manifestos is circulating around that the cops have also revealed. I feel like there are two separate manifestos out there, potentially. One is this, in case I do not, that has been delivered to Sean Ryan's podcast tactically, or at least this one guy who Sean Ryan had on his podcast. In case I do not make it my decision point or on the Mexico border, I'm sending this now. It seems like this probably is. First off, I am not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification. What we have been seeing with drones and operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered aircraft by most recently China and the East Coast, but throughout history, the U.S. Only we in China have this capability. Our OPSEND location for this activity is in the box below. China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this activity is recently picked up. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. The problem here is I believe he was working on drone tech in Germany. I don't think a service member buying a Mustang is verification. That's like 99% of Marines. True. The so and what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned air AC. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that's ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity. They have an unlimited payload capacity? No, they don't. What are you saying? This guy is out of his mind. If this is real, if this is a real email that he sent, okay, I'm sorry. The notion that these drones have unlimited payload capacity is laughable. Unless he's also going to somehow say this is alien technology. All right, let's hear what he had to. Let's hear what this podcast looks like from Sean Ryan now.
Sam Shoemate, welcome to the show, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm nervous about this one.
Yeah, me too.
I'm really nervous about this one. So yesterday I come into work and our stuff's been exploding because of the Sarah Adams, had Sarah Adams, Scott Mann, legend, did an interview with Masood, kind of warning everybody about it's going to be a lot of terrorism here in 2025. Didn't take long. Jan 1, it hit. And, it's interesting. We couldn't get any mainstream media's outlets to pay attention to those interviews. And nobody would really give Sarah a voice. Now everybody wants to.
Dude, we're going to get so crazy in 2025. That's one prediction. Okay, lock it down. If you think 2024 was riddled with silly conspiracies, you have seen nothing yet. 2025 is going to be so crazy. It's going to make 2024 look normal. Like everything in 2024 that people thought were happening, that we thought was insane, is going to seem tame.
To give Sarah a voice because, oh, guess what? The fucking CIA targeter was actually right. Mainstream media gave her no attention. So that's been going crazy. I come in yesterday and for an interview, the first thing I do is talk to my producer, Jeremy, and he says that he's been in contact with you and that you had received some type of manifesto or email from the Green Beret that set off the car bomb at Trump Hotel in Las Vegas.
Right.
Jump in an interview and come out. My phone is blown up. Apparently CID, Army CID, which is, how would you describe it? It's like it's
FBI light.
Yeah.
They are federal agents, but yeah,
the Army's FBI.
Yeah.
I get all these messages from these people that say CID is talking to this person and that person, and one of these guys on the list is still operational, and they want his name redacted, and every Green Beret I know is texting me about this. It fucking really freaked me out, man. It was like, well, how did this leak? Who's tracking my fucking phone? All that kind of stuff. So I just want to say thank you for being here, because I was eavesdropping in on that conversation you had with Jeremy, and this is a big story, man. This is big.
Yeah, it is
real big, and so thank you for being here.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
But I do, before we get too heavy, I got some gifts for you.
Oh,
there you go.
Excellent.
So we're talking.
Thank God. I was worried that they wouldn't maintain operational procedure here. Thank God they still have gifts for one another. Thank God.
People monitoring the phone. Have you heard the unplugged phone?
Yeah.
And for anybody that wants to purchase this phone, you can get it at unplugged.com/Sean Ryan.
Yeah, I have. That's awesome.
So that the unplugged phone keeps big tech.
Oh my God. Oh my God. He's just doing an ad for, this is like, okay. Right off the jump, couple red flags. This strikes me as the Alex Jones style procedure where I feel like this is the Alex Jones method, you know? Talk about how the water is turning the freaking frogs gay and then immediately sell a straw in the commercial break. I feel as though this is basically exactly that. He's doing that with more credibility than Alex Jones, though.
For monitoring your texts and your calls, there's a secure messaging app in there. There's a secure email. So get that thing wired up, and
absolutely,
let's talk on that from now on. So,
okay.
And then everybody gets a bag of these.
Been waiting for this.
Nice.
This is awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Very cool.
But all right, let's dive into it. This is going to be kind of tough. I didn't have, like I said, I was interviewing yesterday, so we're kind of winging it here.
Yeah.
But so before we jump in, I just want to say a couple things about today, and we're not necessarily validating what came in on that email. There's some pretty alarming stuff that came out in the email about the drones that we're seeing on the East Coast, and some capabilities that China has, some capabilities that we have, some activity that went on in Afghanistan in 2019, which actually we do have news reports that is valid. A lot of this stuff actually really lines up, but we can't give it 100% credibility. Right. I think you would agree with that as an intelligence analyst.
100%.
And then additionally, there are a few names, two, I believe, that we are redacting from this because they are still operational. And as much as I would love to release those names, we're not gonna do it so that those guys can remain undercover and not burn their entire operation of what they're into right now. And there was one more.
The audience of this podcast is Tom Clancy novel readers. Okay.
More thing. I want to give a little background on you. Retired from the Army in 2023 as a CW2 intelligence officer and understand the information war. In 2020, you were still on active duty. You started a social media account where you intended to share memes and GIFs. Despite your intentions, the account grew into what it is today. You've developed, what is the account's name?
It's an Instagram account, goes by Terminal CWO.
Terminal CWO. You've developed a robust network of service members across the Department of Defense who trust you with their reports of unethical and, in some cases, illegal behavior from their leaders. You expose the unethical and illegal behavior while protecting whistleblowers in order to hold military leaders accountable, which is why you received the email from the Green Beret. And because of your background, you come across wild information all the time. You're here today because of an email you received from Matthew Livelsberger a couple of days before the Cybertruck bombing at Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. You'll also be able to discuss what you know about the terrorists who conducted the New Orleans attack. Did I miss anything?
No, that sums it up. Yeah, I'll give a background on why that's significant, so your viewers understand how this came into my inbox.
Perfect. One other thing that I just wanted to say to the audience is, even though we are redacting these names from the episode, you pass that, I believe you passed that email on to the FBI.
Yes.
We're also going to pass it on to our contacts at the FBI. It's very obvious that people know it. Like I said, the CID has been telling everybody. In fact, we talked to Jeremy, who's sitting over there, my producer, me, him, and my attorney, Tim Parlatore. We're up till about 10:30 last night talking to the...
10:30 is not even that late. What? Is he one of those like early risers? Is that what it is? Is this Sigma grind set? He's like, I've tactically decided to stay way past my nap time. That's right. We decided that it was we decided that it was important and pertinent for the public to have access tactically to this knowledge that we have ascertained as verifiable evidence of a mass plot happening. I'm never going to stop tactical. I'm never going to stop cop speak. I love it too much, and I need to get better at it because I feel like if I do tactical speak, maybe I can get out of a ticket or something.
Chief of Staff?
The Army Chief of Staff PA.
The Army Chief of Staff's POA took a major interest in this as well. And, you know, one of the things that he said, I'll wait till later to bring that up, but I don't know. I don't trust any of these people. I mean, public affairs officers are there to...
I'll keep my mouth.
Create...
PAO is there to protect the command.
Yeah.
100%, nothing else.
Yeah.
They're not there to shed transparency on anything. They're there to protect the command.
Let's recreate what the story is. But, and you know what's interesting? Fuck it, I'm just going to say it. You know what he said? He goes, on the call, he said, I didn't talk to him. I didn't want to talk to him. So I had them talk to him. He said, between me and you guys, this guy's DNA didn't match his son. And made it sound like it's some big secret. Then at 9:34 p.m., I think it was 9:34 p.m., the New York Post had a headline that said that this guy's... So they're trying to make it sound like this guy did this because maybe he found out the son wasn't his. But there's a lot more to the story, as you'll find out. So,
yeah.
So let's go to you, Sam. Tell me how you got the email.
All right. So for context, I've run this account for the last 4.5 years. There have been people in and out writing articles and different stuff and just investigations, some big, some small, just trying to keep accountability in the military, but developed a robust network within the military, all branches, and people feed into this and send me messages and here and there. Nothing ever like this has ever come in. But I get a, well, it started off as comments. So when you have a big Instagram account, you're going to miss a lot of messages because people message, go to hidden messages and everything else. You miss a lot of stuff. Well, I kept seeing this comment on recent posts that I put in there, and it was from this burner account that said, hey, check your DMs, check your DMs, check your DMs. So I go in there and try to find it. There's no message from this guy, hadn't come through or whatever. And then he messages again once that message was opened up.
Are you telling me an operator who spent most of his time overseas had a wife who had sex with another man? Oh my God. What a random and unique tale. What? That's crazy. surely this is the first time such a thing has taken place.
And I said, hey, your previous messages haven't come through. What do you want to tell me? And he said, what I'm going to send you, now these are literally his words. What I'm going to send you is going to change the course of humanity. That was his phrase, change the course of humanity. Okay, a little bit dramatic. I get these messages all the time. People have this big story they want to tell. They want to expose their command, whatever. I take everything with a grain of salt until I have evidence and proof. So this guy is insistent. He tells me that he is a 18 Zulu who I've spoken to before, and he really needs to get this stuff to me. And then he talks about you. He says, I need you to get me in contact with Sean Ryan. I'm like, dude, I don't know Sean Ryan. I'm not that big. But he's insistent that I get him diverted to media sources, says go to Fox News, whatever else. And I said, all right, tell me what you got. So I give him my Proton email account, give him my signal number. And he reaches out immediately. And I'm going to read this initial message for you because this doesn't have names or anything else on it. But this was his message on Sunday. He reached out and said, like I said, this last Sunday, he said, sending with a VPN active on Wi-Fi only. Do not message me. I will send out updates via both Signal and email, but trust me, you're going to want to be involved. Well, first of all, no, I didn't want to be involved. Anyways, and then, so I didn't message. I responded back to his original Instagram message, and I said, hey, I got your message on Proton Mail. And he said, cool, delete this. So I deleted it. That's how I ended up getting this message on Tuesday. So the message that this right here, this manifesto, if you want to call it that, came in on Tuesday. And when I started reading this, my initial take was, okay, this is off the deep end. It's bonkers. I can't validate or verify any of the stuff in this manifesto. Mm-hmm. And I told him that in a subsequent email. And I'll read that to you later, my response to him. And once again, my response to him elicited, hey, get me in contact with Sean Ryan, Fox News, and he even said Pete Hegseth. Get me in contact with Hegseth. And I'm like, dude, I don't have the incoming Secretary of Defense's phone number. Sorry, bro. That's the last time I talked to him.
Sean's like, I do.
So yesterday morning.
What date was that?
That was Tuesday. That was this Tuesday. So we're Friday now. That was 3 days ago.
So
the day before.
30th?
Yeah, the day before the attack. I just missed this stuff out of hand.
The 31st. It was on the 31st.
Yes. In fact, I posted something on my... I told your producer about this as well. But this was a post I made on Twitter. I was just trying to be humorous, off the cuff. It was... I didn't mean anything about it. I was just being humorous for my audience. I said, my inbox was especially eventful today. Allegations of war crimes, government anti-gravity technology, and fears about being tracked and watched by the feds. It's always, the world is ending and I have this information that needs to get to the media and never, how you doing, bro?
I like that on its face, he made fun of this guy. Understandably so, because it sounds like the ramblings of a madman. But post-mortem, now that it's a big story and it lands him on the Sean Ryan podcast, he's going to sit there and act like everything he said was totally fucking verifiable. That's crazy. Like when he first got the message, he was like, okay, dude, chill. For understandable reasons. Like that is the normal first reaction to a guy who's like, only us in China have access to like alien style anti-gravity technology. And it's the Chinese that are launching drones on the East Coast. And once the guy turns around and says, no, I am that fucking dude. I am that crazy. And he blows himself up. Only after he's like, oh, never mind. I think this is real.
Brother, everything all right? I was just playing off of a meme. Mm-hmm. It was just supposed to be a joke. That was the body of his email that he sent me. And I didn't think anything about it. I didn't know who Matt Berg was, Matt Livelsberg or anything else. He told me who he was in the email. He pointed me to his LinkedIn account. I didn't know any of this stuff. And I was just kind of being humorous with my audience. Like, I get these crazy messages sometime. And then the day after that message, I wake up and my buddy was like, hey, Sam, nobody in the community seems to know this guy. Do you happen to know who he is? And I played that for you before we came up here. Just absolute shock. That's how I woke up yesterday.
Do you want to play it now?
Yeah. Excuse my language. I was definitely in shock. Let me find this chat. So,
while you're digging through that, you know what we should do? I should get that Instagram account from you to see if they messaged any of our Instagram accounts. And we should also get that email address.
I deleted it.
You deleted it?
He told me to delete it and I deleted it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We should also get that email address and see if they sent it in through the website and see if he tried to contact us, get that to the FBI.
So I'm in a military.
Hopefully they actually do something.
Yeah, I'm in a military group chat. Buddy Green Beret, Corey, he says, at Sam. Nope, nobody I've asked in the community knows him. You is at 8:46 a.m. yesterday. So I woke up and I said, OF, I'm shaking. This guy emailed me 2 days ago. I'm not playing. And then he said, damn. And then this was my response to him at 8:48. Like, just woke up.
I'm fucking shaking, bro.
Wait, was that Mike Malak? What the fuck? Cybertruck attacker note release? Dog, we are literally watching what people are alleging is the note. This is the manifesto. The note is something else. Wait, there's a note. I saw on TikTok. Oh my God.
You don't understand. This guy emailed me and told me he was being watched by the FBI and Homeland Security, but they weren't going to do anything to him because he had a VBID. I'm not fucking playing, dude. I have the email. I am shaking, man. This is nuts.
And it goes from there. And I sat there for probably an hour talking to my wife. I'm shaking. I can't even think straight. Like, normal day shot. And I didn't know what I want to do. Do I sit on this? Do I do nothing with it? I've got to tell somebody. I've got to tell the FBI at least, because this is huge. This is all over the news. And then I was like, well, dude, this guy wanted to get in contact with Sean Ryan. So let me get this to Sean Ryan, see if I can get with him. And
that is amazing. He's like, yeah, I'm shaking, thinking, who do I get in contact with? And I think to myself, got to give this to the FBI. But then I'm like, no, fuck the FBI. Sean Ryan is the guy. Under no circumstance do we think that the guy who exploded his Cybertruck could potentially be mentally not all there. That's what I love about the story in general, is that not a single person is going, hey, hold up, maybe the fucking 15-year touring special forces operator who had a litany of complications at home could potentially be, I don't know, mind broken. No. We only thought that before he blew himself up. Now that he blew himself up, it seems that he had actually arrived at anti-gravity technology.
I had a buddy who knew your producer, and we went from there. But
wow. Do you want to read the email?
Yep. So this email came in on December 31st at 10:42 a.m. That is Tuesday. He said, in case I do not make it to my decision point or onto the Mexico border, I am sending this now. Please do not release this until 1 January and keep my identity private until then. First off, I am not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification. What we have been seeing with drones, he puts that in quotes, he says drones, is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered aircraft by most recently China and the East Coast, but throughout history, the US. Only we in China have this capability. Our OPSEN, that's Operation Center, our OPSEN location for this activity is in the box below. China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this activity recently has picked up. As of now, it is just a show of force, and they are using it similar to how they used a balloon for SIGINT and ISR, which are also part of the integrated comms system. There are dozens of those balloons.
Chinese weather balloon veers off course due to limited capabilities of navigation. And this guy is literally saying that the balloon was actually a show of force by China. Tactical Talk is making this so epic. Yeah. Tactical Talk always makes things more epic and cool.
In the air at any given time. The so what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned aircraft. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate. U.S. government needs to give the history of this, how we are employing it and weaponizing it, how China is employing them, and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. I've been followed for over a week now from likely Homeland or FBI, and they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico, but won't because they know I am armed and I have a massive VBID. Let me pause right there for a second. So he says a massive VBID. When I was talking to the FBI yesterday, they didn't know what a VBID was. I had to explain what that acronym meant, literally.
You fucking serious?
Dead serious. I said it twice, and he goes, you said that word.
Are you serious? They didn't know what a vehicular-borne improvised explosive device means? These goddamn lawyers, I hate the FBI. They're not the doorbusters like we are. Yee. Goddamn suits. It must be the DEI in the FBI that caused them to not know what a VBED is. God damn it. I'm pissed off. These freaking suits, man. They're all lawyers, the lot of them. They don't know how to do real work, real operator work. Unlike my boy Matthew Livesberger.
VBID. Can you tell me what that is? For your audience, a VBID, for your audience who has not been in the GWOT for the last 20 years, a VBID is a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. In layman's terms, a car bomb, what we saw at Trump Tower. So, backing up, he says, I am armed and have a massive VBID. I've been trying to maintain a very visible profile and have kept my phone, and they are definitely digitally tracking me. Here's where he gets into the other stuff. And this is where we had to redact the names. Well, your producer redacted the names. I have knowledge of this program and also war crimes that were covered up during airstrikes in Nimruz province, Afghanistan in 2019 by the admin, DOD, DEA, and CIA. I conducted targeting for these strikes of over 125 buildings. 65 were struck because of civcas, that's civilian casualties, that killed hundreds of civilians in a single day. U.S. FORA continued strikes after spotting civilians on initial ISR. It was supposed to take 6 minutes and scramble all aircraft in CENTCOM. The UN basically called these war crimes, but the administration made them disappear. I was part of that cover-up with U.S. FORA, an agent, redacted, of the DEA. So I don't know if my abduction attempt is related to either. I worked with, redacted, IO staff on this as well as the response to Bala Murghab. Redacted commander at the time, redacted, can validate this. You need to elevate this to the media so we avoid a world war because this is a mutually assured destruction situation. Then he says, for vetting, my LinkedIn is Matt Berg or Matthew Littlesberger, an active duty 18 Zulu out of 110, that's 1st Battalion 10th Special Forces Group. My profile is public. I have an active TSSCI with UAP, USAP access.
What is USAP? Do you know what that is?
I don't know what that is. But I checked his credentials on LinkedIn. So that was the first thing I did. I went to his LinkedIn page. First thing I noticed was all of his bona fides were in place. He has all the UAS training from USASOC and everything else. And so I said, okay, at least the guy knows what he's talking about with drones. That was a very rough dig into the guy. But my issue was I couldn't validate or verify any of this information. And I told him that. And how I responded to him was in a subsequent email. I said, this is obviously a very big deal, but I don't have anything to verify this information with. Talking about gravitic propulsion systems without evidence just makes me another UFO talking head. Like, I'm not going to go on my social media page and start talking about UFOs and anti-gravity systems and everything. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't. And he said, can I get on Fox News Contact on Signal as well as Sean's show? Hegseth would be good too. That was his last message to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, what is a gravitic propulsion system?
To be honest with you, it is a fancy term you're going to find in science fiction. You won't find it in any, as far as I know, you won't find this in any kind of official manual or, scientific research. This is all science fiction. So, but what struck me is his use, what strikes me now, not then, but what strikes me now is his use of a very specific term that nobody else call it. If you asked me, I would say an anti-gravity propulsion system. That's how I would describe it because I don't know this stuff. He said gravitic propulsion system.
We looked that up last night too, and all we could find was same thing, science fiction type stuff. But, there are some things that line up. One is, like I'd mentioned, well, let's talk about the guy's story. Obviously, he had a VBID. Obviously, he was in the military and served. And the thing that he was talking about in 2019, we pulled a report. This is from October 9th, 2019. UN report find alleged drug facilities were not lawful target airstrikes caused significant civilian casualties. The United Nations Special Report, which examines the impact on civilians of the United States airstrikes on alleged drug processing facilities on 5 May 2019 in Afghanistan, determines the operation caused a large number of civilian casualties. The report also examines the legal framework applicable to this incident. In June 2019, the UN Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, together with representatives of the Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission, conducted a site visit to areas impacted by the strikes in Farah Province, Bakwa District, as part of its extensive fact-finding into the 5 May incident. The UN verified 39 civilian casualties, among them 14 children, 1 woman, from multiple airstrikes on more than 60 sites that the United States, Afghanistan identified as drug production facilities in Bakwa district and in parts of neighboring Delaram district of Nimraz province.
They were eliminating the competition, dude. They were like, only we get to produce drugs in Afghanistan, you sons of bitches. What do you think you're doing?
Moreover, the UN is working to verify credible reports of at least 37.
Yeah. Also, the DA wasn't actually wasn't Afghanistan. I know. I'm not joking when I say only we, JSOC. When I say we, I mean JSOC. Only we get to produce opium in Afghanistan, not you. Suspiciously, none of it makes its way to the United States of America. We have our own version of the fentanyl crisis, obviously, which is really damaging. And weirdly enough, none of the opiates grown in Afghanistan before the Taliban takeover, okay, because from what I understand, they stopped the opium production, and it went down dramatically. But none of that made its way into the United States of America and only made its way into Europe. All the opium that came into the European marketplace, all the heroin that came into the European marketplace was actually Afghan-produced opium. So, having said that, could the part of him talking about covering up war crimes in Afghanistan be real? Yeah, no shit. I do think that it's probably real, because that part is like adding on additional seasoning to a completely improvised, insane conspiracy theory and then ending it with, and I drove a car. That is so commonplace and so normal that it is the same as him saying, to verify, I also have, my first car was a Mustang V6 in 2006. It's like, yeah, I get that. It's the sandwich technique. Place 2 different correct things and then, you know, slam the middle of the sandwich with insane nonsense.
7 additional civilian casualties, the majority of whom were women and children. Although airstrikes on the alleged drug processing facilities had taken place before, this was the first time that UNAMA had received reports of large number of civilian casualties resulting from such an operation. And it goes on. I'm not going to read all this. We'll link the article here. But so that 100% lines up. The other thing, you know, that really struck me is, like I'd mentioned, after our phone call, jumped in an interview after the interview.
If we find out that GravTech is there and that's what the orbs are, you're so cooked, bro. I mean, dude, I'll gladly say I'm wrong. So you believe this part, but not his work on drones and what he's seen? No, I'm the one who brought up that he was supposedly working on drones in Germany. I don't know why a special forces guy would be working on drones. It's not like he has an engineering background. He's just a fucking doorbuster, but
checked my phone, and I had several Green Berets, former Green Berets, one still active. Actually, I'm just going to say it was Tim Kennedy.
This guy, wait, he just keeps revealing. He's like, I'm not going to say it. Fuck it. I'm going to say it. Tim Kennedy.
Sent me a message late last night about 9 p.m. and said, hey, I should have brought my phone up here, but hey, basically that the use of...
Didn't Tim Kennedy just recently get outed for just like also being a fabulist? It's so funny because like virtually all these guys that write books about like their exploits almost always come out to be lying. They're serial exaggerators. Mick Huya is another great example. Sean O'Neill, who weirdly follows me. I don't know why.
SOC wants to give me more context on what had happened on this guy. And so first I wasn't going to take the call because I don't trust the government anymore. I don't think anybody does. But I was on the phone with my producer, who was a naval surface warfare officer, and my attorney, Tim Parlatore. They said we should talk to him. So I called Tim, was really pissed off, reamed his ass about it, and then later apologized. But, you know, I think you said you had mentioned that you had received a message from somebody that says nobody's heard of this guy. Tim sent me a picture of him shooting with this guy. And I don't know if I should release that photo or not, but Tim.
He's like, but I don't give a shit.
Tim basically told me this. So I got the POA's number, the public affairs officer, sent it to Jeremy and Tim. He talked to them. And what they wanted us to know was that this guy was an upstanding soldier, an excellent operator, was moving on, was moving towards retirement and moving on to basically enhance the future of warfare. They wanted us to know that. Then the PA officer, sounds like almost jokingly said, which I don't know why you would joke about this, said that, oh, and between us, which why the fuck would a POA officer say between us? I mean, if they didn't want us to know that information, then they just wouldn't have told us that. But they wanted us to know, obviously, that the DNA with his supposed child was not a match. And so I think what they were trying to do is basically make this out to be, oh, this is why this happened. He got bad news that that's not his child.
What's really interesting and funny about podcasts like Sean Ryan's and all these like ex-CIA guys, they're popping lately. They're all over the place, is that I just don't trust them at all. I feel like if there's a guy who's still a Fed, it's these guys. This way they get to capture the attention of a lot of the conspiratorial minded people, okay, and then just like steer them in whichever direction the federal government thinks is an appropriate vector for conspiratorial mindset, and not like dangerous things that are actually dangerous for the federal government. Like there's no way you can convince me that a guy who's like worked with the CIA is like a contractor is just now a former Fed who hates the government. I just don't believe it. I don't trust anything that these guys say, which is funny because all of those like cynical conspiracy brained guys who traffic in a number of different rabid conspiracies will literally just only listen to these dudes and think these guys are the bravest truth tellers out there. And it's like, dude, if you're a conspiracy guy and you're skeptical of the government, why would you ever consider a Fed to be a truthful person? I will never understand that. I don't understand it. I will never understand it. I think it's very strange.
And so that's why he did it. But with all the other context.
Don't you think this show so far is just LARP? I think it's half LARP and no, it's there's a lot of LARP for sure.
Especially with the 2019 incident, which was obviously a cover-up. I think that has a major role in this. The other thing is,
because we already have a track record of what happens when you are a real whistleblower. Okay, you don't have to look any further. One of them has been on my broadcast, Chelsea Manning, and the other is not allowed on U.S. soil, Edward Snowden. Okay, when you're an actual whistleblower, you face tremendous repercussions. You don't get to go on a freaking podcast. You get killed by Boeing or you get killed by ChatGPT, allegedly. You know? You either die mysteriously and the coroner rules your death a suicide by gunshot, 8 shots to the back of your head. That's the way. That's your method of execution. I mean, not execution. Your method of suicide. Or you have to live your life in exile in Russia. Or you have to live in a consulate building in a non-extradition country for the rest of your life as they openly fantasize about executing you and only let you live basically, many, many years after they've ruined your life. Julian Assange. So I don't know. I just feel like if you're like a real whistleblower, opening the book on these government conspiracies, shining a light on these government conspiracies, you're not going to have one of the most popular podcasts out there. The only person I will say that I trust, despite their background of being around federal, being around the CIA and being trained by the American military, is Brace Belden. As he did, go to Rojava. So, of course, in that time frame, I'm sure that there were members of the CIA and the American government that trained him. But I still trust him. No, I'm saying you're saying in Chelsea, but no, Chelsea served her time. That's different. I'm saying Brace didn't get into any problems. Well, I guess Brace wasn't really a whistleblower either. He's not a whistleblower at all.
I started receiving a lot of messages from one of the redacted names who's a DEA agent, the one that he's talking about in the email to you. We got it from multiple sources, one of which was actually a videographer for me, I think 4 years ago. He worked for me a very short period of time. I had to let him go. He joined the Army, went to OCS, became an Army officer, sent me a text, super freaked out. Apparently he was on some rafting trip with somebody that knows the DEA officer and said, hey, this guy's still operational. He wants his name redacted.
Wow.
Not the only one. Then I received a message from another very close friend of mine who's been on the show several times saying that he got word that this guy was still operational. And so that's why we decided to redact his name. I was getting upset because I didn't receive any communication up to that point. Well, then I checked my LinkedIn. I said, let me see if this guy actually messaged me. Sure as shit, that DEA agent did message me, said that he wanted to talk to me before tomorrow's interview. It was really important. Wow. We tried to contact him, not from my phone. I'm not calling any of these people, but from somebody else's phone. He didn't pick up, and we weren't going to send any text thread to show any communication between us any more than the LinkedIn message. And I didn't hit him on LinkedIn. So that also 100% checks out. Now, the weird thing is anonymous as this guy wants to remain, if I remember correctly, he posted something about the Green Beret that set the bomb off. Oh, yeah, wow. That was his latest post. Well, Jeremy, what was it? What did the post?
It was just a report of the story.
It was just a report of the story. So very interesting how all this stuff is lining up. What do you think?
I told the guys downstairs, I jokingly said this to my wife the day that I got that email, because I read the email to her. You all have heard the email now. You realize without context of who this person is, how just crazy it sounds. And I told her, I said, well, I mean, I guess if the dude ends up getting rolled up by the feds or he gets killed, we got a story, huh? Man, famous last words, right?
That's your speculate, dude. Like, no, one, it still sounds just as crazy, and two, you're betraying the severity and the veracity of the email, the contents of the email, by saying you only care about the story element of it. Because if you truly thought what he was saying is true, you're like, dude, the government has anti-gravity technology that they're hiding, and double dude, China also has it, and they're deploying drones on U.S. soil. Clearly, even you don't believe, even now, what the contents of that email was. This is what I don't understand. Elon called you a stupid idiot? Oh, hell yeah. Do we get... What did he say? Here, give me roll the clip. Elon said school is capitalist on Connor. It's not Elon, guys. It's Alan Dittman.